Welcome back to Wrist Check Podcast, episode 62. Wow.
Woo!
Woo! We're back, minus 1/3 of our crew. Rashawn is en route traveling back to New York, so he couldn't join us this evening, but he is dearly missed. Tonight on the couch, we have a good friend of ours, Hafez Taghavi. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to have you. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Happy to be here.
You're an amazing collector. We got to talk a little bit behind the scenes and just take a sneak peek at some of what you brought us today. And I think this is going to make for a really good conversation because you have what seems to be very varied tastes in terms of watch collecting. But before we get into that, it's only right that we have our honorary wrist check. And there's a new couch, excuse me. There's a new watch on the couch.
I knew you were going to do it. I was just looking at you.
There we go. There's a new watch on the couch. Ben, what do you got on the wrist tonight?
I'm wearing a yellow gold Oyster Flex Daytona. Obviously, it's a special watch for many reasons. One, because I know the comments are going to say, I thought Ben hates Daytonas.
Yeah, we've been hearing that a lot this evening when we walked in.
Go back to every episode.
Run it back.
Steal Daytonas specifically.
Steal Daytonas.
And again, to be more specific, the Panda.
Yeah,
this is neither of those things. This is not stealing. This is not a Panda dial.
No.
It's what I guess we've all dubbed a John Player dial, right? So it's, at least when it was in current production, it was Rolex's only matte black dial. Everything else had a lacquer over it. Champagne sub dials, red minute track. And of course, what made me fall in love with it, red seconds hand.
Yeah.
So it's pretty special. It has my initials engraved on the back of it, so it's a keeper. It ain't going nowhere.
There we go.
If I get buried, it's coming with me.
Huh.
Yeah, man.
I challenge you to try to grave dig. I'm gonna haunt you.
I love the fact that it's got a matte black dial.
Facts.
I think it's just a really, really nice addition. You don't get any gloss looking down at it. That red seconds hand really pops, but the red minute track for me too is also a thing.
I've owned it for exactly 16 days as of this recording, and I haven't taken it off. I've slept with it on.
It's a good piece, my man.
Yeah, it's good.
I love that you know that it's 16 days too.
I'll be keeping track. Eventually, I'll stop, but it's still a honeymoon phase. When I don't work for a full day is a day I'll stop keeping track.
We recently took a trip to Atlanta. Shout out to our friends over at Oris, who brought us down to celebrate a momentous occasion. They released a new watch with the Hank Aaron Dream Foundation. And this watch uses the canvas of the Big Crown Pro Pilot. Big Crown, Pointer Date. And it's a beautiful watch. It's got an image of Hank Aaron engraved on the back.
Yeah, and the image is cool because he was famous for having this like inverted swing.
Oh yeah.
For like putting like the quote unquote wrong hand on top because his batting stance, and they got it in the engraving.
They have it engraved.
So it's like a nice little thing if you're a fan of Hank Aaron and you notice it. It's a nice little touch.
Yeah, and then the dial has got some of the Atlanta Braves colorway mixed in, and a big white dial. Kind of looks like a baseball, which I think is really, really nice. But you brought this watch with you.
Yep.
And it was my first time seeing it on your wrist in person.
It was funny. I wasn't going to bring it until you told me you were bringing the second watch.
Yeah, we were talking like a day or two before, and he was like, "What watch are we?" I was like, "I'm only bringing ours." And then I hit him that morning before a flight, and I was like, "I think I'm bringing one more watch with me." So he brought it with him. But I was the first person to use the chronograph function.
Yeah, I still haven't even used it. I still haven't used it. I didn't even use it that night. You reset it, you closed the pushes, and I was like, okay, that's it. The chronograph has not been touched aside from Perri.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that thing. Congratulations, you deserve it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, it looks great.
I'll go next and leave our guest of honor, for last. I'm wearing a special watch. This is a watch that belongs to a dear friend of ours. It is his Patek Philippe Aquanaut. This is the 5165 A. So when this watch was introduced, I think this was introduced for the 10th anniversary of the Aquanaut in 2017. They released two references. One being this one, the 38 millimeter, and then it was the other counterpart, which is still in production, which I believe is a 40. And I don't know, there's something about this one. I've always liked the Aquanaut. I probably wasn't as big of a fan as you were, Ben.
Yeah.
Calling it the
perfect sports
watch. But I can't really disagree with you anymore. I've been wearing it for a couple of days, and it's nice. It flies under the radar nicely, wears well, super comfortable. And I really, really do like the design. I think when you compare it with some of the older iterations of the Aquanaut, it's cool to kind of see how it, over the years, it's gotten more and more refined.
Yeah, it's a good medium because a lot of people who like that watch really like the older 90s, early 2000s styles. But I feel like most people we've spoken to hate the gap in between the strap and the case.
I don't hate the gap, but I definitely I appreciate.
Yeah, that's like the 5165 is like a compromise.
Yeah. And speaking of history of the Aquanaut, our friend Hafez has a watch on the wrist. What do you got for us tonight?
So
we didn't plan this.
Yeah. We didn't, no collusion or anything. Right? But it's a 5167A.
Boom.
Aquanaut. My second Patek purchase ever.
Wow.
First Patek for me. First Patek was for mom.
Okay. Respect. Shout
out to mom.
Mom comes first. Always.
What'd you get her?
She got a olive dial 24. And,
square or round?
Square. And,
nice.
With
Yes.
the beautiful diamonds
it's a great
on
watch.
there, and it's good for her. And green's her favorite color. She got a big promotion a couple years ago, and finally I got to a place where we could get her one. And one came through from my AD, and she loves it. Wears it all the time.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Shout out to mom.
Mom's
what's funny is that watch uses the same bracelet that they use for the Aquanaut.
Oh, really?
When it's available on bracelet.
Okay.
Yeah. It's interesting. Awesome. Yeah. So it's speaking of the history of the Aquanaut, we just so happen to be wearing both iterations released for the 10th anniversary.
I didn't get the memo.
So
I forgot to.
Come on,
put
man.
my
Read your
Patek on.
emails. Read your emails.
and so this was the first one for yourself. Was this a piece? Obviously, this was a piece that you were after.
Yes, definitely.
Right. How did this come into the collection exactly?
Well,
That's a long story. No?
Yeah,
that spans a couple of years.
Okay.
It does. I mean, this one, I'd pre-hype everything. I've always been into watches, and this one has always been on my mind, even before I knew kind of what Patek really represented and what their kind of place was in the watch world.
Okay.
But just something about it, kind of like Ben was saying, it had the full functionality for my lifestyle. You can dress it up, down, does all the things that you needed to. And whenever I got to a place in my life where I had the money to buy it, I had something else come along that was more important at the time.
Took priority.
Yeah,
sure.
when I bought my house or started a new business or something like that, I'm like, don't spend money on a watch.
Fiscally responsible.
Yeah.
Trying.
Adult decisions.
Yeah. Sometimes bites me in the ass, but
Sure.
trying my best. But so
How long ago was that? Like when you were like, all right, I'm ready to buy this watch.
I guess, when did I buy my house? I bought my house 5 years ago, and I'd wanted it, maybe 3 years before that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was
So
a
it's
long
been on
time,
your radar for like 7-8 years.
Yeah, just kind of lusting after that.
Yeah.
And
to be fair, 7-8 years ago, there was a decent chance you could get one from an AD.
right.
Sure.
Just, walking in and getting to know you, that could be a thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And back then, I didn't really know much about, I mean, obviously it's different now, definitely.
Yeah.
But even anything about the relationship and all that, anything I'd bought before was kind of sporadic and not through an AD or my first Rolex I bought was gray, actually. I bought it on the gray market. And I tend to buy things for achievement sometimes, but always on my radar. And then this year, I hit another achievement in my life. I took over a new company, which I'd been working with for about 15 years. And the current CEO took me to lunch and kind of asked me to take it over. And it was
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was I was kind of blindsided by it, actually, and it was
And then you celebrate with a watch.
Yeah,
sure, as one does.
and sure enough, the AD calls and it's funny, they didn't tell me what was there. They were just like, "Hey, can you come in?" And I was like, "For what?"
Yeah.
I think the phone call was just make sure you have a credit card.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
And I didn't know, because there was a bunch of watches on my list, and I assumed it wouldn't be a sports piece first time or whatever, and they kind of plopped it right there in front of me when they sat me down in the Patek room, and I was like, beyond anything. It was
We'll get
like,
to
really
that
amazing.
that one later. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So, where are you from? Who are you?
Oh man.
How do you arrive here?
So I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland.
Okay, all right.
Right outside of DC.
Nice, the DMV area.
That's
guy.
right. Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
awesome.
So that's Montgomery County area. Awesome place. I moved to Connecticut in 2008
Okay.
or so. I went to Western Connecticut State University for my undergrad. I'm a musician by trade, so I play classical violin.
You're classical violinist.
Classical violinist, yeah. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I'm privileged that I can do it for my job and everything else. It's really hard to play violin.
Yeah.
It's just like, people always ask, "Oh, what's the hardest instrument?" And I always tell them it's got to be one of the string instruments because, pianists, they play a lot of notes. They got all those things, but like imagine every piano key was like a millimeter big.
Yeah.
And that's how it. And we don't have frets or anything, so we got to like figure it. It's a crazy thing. So I knew when I wanted to do music, I didn't want to go to like a big time conservatory or anything like that. First of all, I couldn't afford doing that, definitely. And I knew I just didn't want to be in a music school. I wanted to do other things as well. So because I played soccer at WestCon also. So, I played varsity soccer there and I could do that and be a music major at the same time. So I stayed there. I knew I wanted to be close to the city. And then I did my graduate degree at Purchase College, which is a little bit closer to the city. And then I've been in Connecticut ever since.
Awesome.
So in and out of New York as much as I can be.
Yeah. And during this journey, at which point did that spark get ignited in terms of just general interest in timepieces?
Well, I've always been interested in watches since I was a kid.
Okay.
So, and that was back then. What was on my radar were the Casios and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And those were always great. And when I was younger, the one thing that my dad would always spend money on is traveling. And he had family all over the world. So my favorite uncle, no offense to any of my other uncles out there, he lived in Switzerland, in Bern, Switzerland.
Oh, wow.
And so that was my first time really traveling outside of the country, besides like Canada. We went there and of course, you see everything of everything. So I was like kid in a candy shop. And,
Literally? Candy shop?
And, Swiss chocolate, don't get me started.
Sure.
And my uncle wore this vintage Omega. I don't know what the model was, but very plain time only leather strap, and he caught me staring at it all the time. So while we were there, he gave it to me.
Oh wow!
He gave me this Omega, and so I was like, all happy walking around, wearing it everywhere. I was maybe 10 at the time.
Yeah.
And after a couple of days, my dad was like, you gotta give that back. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, he gave it to me. And he goes, that was his wedding watch. You gotta give it back.
Yeah.
So I was like, so I gave it back. And ever since then, it had always been on my mind. And, I never had money then or for a long time. So just kind of bought some fashion watches here and there, whatever I thought was
At what
cool
point
at
in
the
your
time.
life when you started purchasing them for yourselves?
I guess in college,
Okay.
I started making more money. I was like doing some gigs in college, playing music and like teaching lessons. And so I started, hustling a lot, making more money. So, I'd buy a watch here and there. And then when I got my first professor job was when I bought my first Rolex. So that was my first like big time.
And what Rolex was this? What piece was this?
It was a Z Blue Milgauss.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
That was at that time I wanted a Rolex that didn't really look like a Rolex.
That
I
lightning
guess.
bolt seconds hand.
Yeah, and there was something just really unique about that.
Sure.
So I wore it on the bracelet a lot, and then for a while I wore it on like a green rubber strap. That was I liked it, but
That's what matters.
it was great. It was a great watch.
Yeah.
What was that first like fashion purchase watch that you made?
First fashion one was I bought a Burberry watch from like Nordstrom.
with the
plaid
style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was.
You had the baby shower watch.
Yeah, it was. It was. I just loved it. I loved Burberry at that time, and I mean, I still like some Burberry stuff, but something about the strap and the dial actually had like an offset, asymmetrical plaid, kind of shadowy design on it too on the dial. and I was just obsessed with it. I loved it. And then eventually all the letters of the Burberry thing fell off.
Sure.
I still have it actually, but I just I had a watchmaker just like clean it up on the inside or whatever. But it was nice. It was 38 millimeters, nice size.
Tight.
And
what's funny about like the Milgauss is I feel like prior to COVID, it wasn't a thing on like a lot of people's radar.
Sure.
Right, and almost like prior to COVID, and because it existed, the Z Blue was not the first Milgauss we know now.
Sure,
that they were older iterations of this watch, but it's a Rolex that seems so unlike anything Rolex would actually do.
Right,
that when you see it, it's kind of just like you just get so kind of like enamored by like what the heck is going on?
It's polarizing.
Yeah, it is. It's like what is this?
People love it or like it's not for me at all.
Yeah, it's like there's no middle ground with this thing.
Absolutely.
It's like you either love it or you hate it.
It's weird how like all the colors in there somehow work.
Yeah.
And one of the things I found fascinating too, I don't know if it's true or not, but I read somewhere that the green sapphire
it's not patented.
It's
true. It's a fact.
It is okay. Yeah. Like Rolex didn't patent it because
no one can copy it.
Yeah, it was in their mind.
And the other thing too. So I had this conversation with someone who works for Patek actually, and we were like talking about like crazy like behind the scenes like corporate like industry secret stuff, and they were saying how like not only Patek, but every company does this where they'll work on something for so long that they won't patent it because patents become public after a year. So then another brand can just copy it.
They can just copy it.
You give them the formula. They're like, well, why would we ever do that?
Right.
So they just don't.
Wow.
So that's
makes sense.
Definitely what Rolex is doing. They're like, okay, it's hard to copy that, but we're also not going to tell you how we did it, so we're not going to file a patent.
And if it's hard for them,
if you figure it out, you figure it out.
Unlimited
But
resources.
we're not going to, we ain't going to,
Yeah, so when I read that, I was like, that's a hilarious flex to me. Like, I mean, it's like, you're not going to figure it out, so we don't.
It's so good, we're not even going to patent it.
Yeah.
Sure.
But, cool
awesome.
watch. Green
no,
with
it
the
is.
blue,
I really love the Milgauss.
Really interesting.
So you brought some pieces for us this evening. And I think just, it's funny because we had met for the first time a couple of days ago. I joined you guys at an FP.
Yeah, we've had to reschedule this fucking interview twice.
That's right.
And you were wearing that special Patek the other night.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, myself, okay, this guy's got like a crazy collection. He's got a serious collection. And you come here tonight, and I gotta admit, when you open the case, I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised. Really, I was, because I'm like, oh, okay, he threw me a curveball, right? He didn't come with like what I expected.
That was
like
planned.
to show. I'm sure to show how like well-rounded of a collector you are, but not only well-rounded, but that you actually like you have. I guess different categories or levels of appreciation of timepieces.
Absolutely.
And what's really cool here is to see how much fun you like to have, and in your ability to have fun with timepieces, you're not losing anything practical, right? And so I think what's really cool here, one of the things that first caught my attention were these Zelos pieces that you have, because these are like some actually pretty cool sports watches. I'm a fan of the brand, and you brought 3 of them for us, and they're pretty crazy. So I want to start first with this one here. You got a malachite dial Zelos.
Yeah.
This is GMT.
300 meters.
300 meters.
I put it on a Barton.
I mean, it's a dive watch.
Yeah.
With a date, malachite dial. What's the story behind this? How does a guy who, collects Rolex, collects Patek, find his way to a brand like Zelos and say, you know what, this is cool, this is for me?
Well, it's kind of like anything else. A lot of people that get into watches, they talk, I'm their watch friend or something like that. They want to talk to me about everything. And of course they know Rolex, they know this and that. But, especially when I started out, that was definitely not on the table financially.
Right.
Absolutely, And I kind of thought to myself, like in my business, I play violin, I do concerts and these things. One of my other businesses is selling instruments.
Okay.
And so I rent and sell, and everything I rent and sell is handmade and different things. But there's part of my business model is guiding people down roads where they find something that's in their budget, but still checks all their boxes. It still sounds good. It comes from high quality materials, all those things, but doesn't you don't have to mortgage your house or something like that.
Sure.
And just like art and cars and all that, there's value propositions at every stage in watches and violins and all that. So I kind of just did some digging and started to see that. And then also, I'm always not in a place where I want to be wearing a very expensive watch too, but I still wanted to have something that I appreciated that was still very functionable and, this looks great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just can't stop looking at it. It's so Zelos was one of those big ones that came on my radar, and all three of them that I brought today are under $1,000.
Yeah.
Which still is a lot of money.
Some of them are under like $500.
Right, yeah. The purple one, I brought the purple one because I know you guys have been doing a lot of purple lately.
Yeah, we like purple over there.
And
the dive watch you helped me get is also under $500.
Yeah, that's right.
Some good stuff.
That's right. And that one I think is $400.
This one's cool.
Automatic movement.
Meteorite dial, no?
This one isn't. This one's like a carved dial. So if you look really close in there, it has a lot of texture to it. The lume is crazy. The lume is better than my subs.
Yep.
Actually. And in this collection, I also have a fully loomed dial. I'll send you guys a video so you can put it up or something. But and what's cool also is you can tell like a lot of time and thought went into these. Mm-hmm. And this is a limited piece. I think this is one of 150 pieces in the world. So I mean, that's also cool too.
It's great. You're part of a small community of people.
Yeah. And it's just,
it
just looks great.
Everything they make is limited numbered, right?
I think so.
Yeah. The Mako GMT in my hand is a one of 400.
Okay.
I think that's a really cool thing when you come across like collectors such as yourself. I'm always kind of curious though. What is someone who? How does a micro brand that's cranking out timepieces, maybe more so, even if they're limited on a mainstream level that's a little more accessible, how do they speak to a collector that may be a little more seasoned, that has a very specific palette? What are you looking for in terms of either functionality or design from an experience level where a brand like a Zelos captures your attention?
The things I look for, obviously interesting dial. That's a big one, especially with the big Swiss brands. They don't always take some leaps and bounds with what they do dial design. I know Rolex had some interesting releases this year, but
AKA the dipping dots.
That's right.
AKA puzzle pieces.
That's right. So that's one of them. And just because, for example, a lot of people that talk to me about, getting into it, like what's a good entry level Swiss watch under $1,000, I tell them go down the Tissot route.
Yeah.
Tissot PRX, beautiful watch.
PRX is a hot piece for them right now too.
Yeah.
It looks great. It does everything you want it to do. And for me, like something like that's not necessarily interesting for me because I have an AP that looks the same.
Sure. You mean the AP looks like the
right
PRX,
or whatever.
The official watch of the NBA.
Yeah, that's right. So that something like that I appreciate as a really great watch. Maybe it's not for my collection.
Sure.
But for someone looking for that price point, it's perfect. So I kind of look for some weirder ones and a little bit more playful ones. Also part of my business is I teach a lot. I teach classes of all ages.
Okay.
From like 4 to 64, and sometimes wearing a fun watch too. A kid will ask about it, and then it kind of sparks something in them too. And I'm happy to talk them into the watch.
That's
space
awesome. So watches for you are also about creating experiences.
Absolutely. Well, as we see it as art and function. I try to stay off my phone as much as I can nowadays. So, I like not having, if I'm in a meeting or in teaching a class or something, I don't want to be checking my phone all the time. Yep. I'd rather be looking at my wrist. I like to be happy when I'm looking at my wrist.
Yeah. So how'd you come across the brand Zelos? What was your introduction to this brand in particular?
I found them online. I want to say it was a Teddy Baldessar video, actually.
Shout out to Teddy. We saw him in Atlanta.
Shout out to Teddy. He was on our bowling team. We smoked Zach Blasted, the two other Zachs, and whoever else was on that team. Yeah. Slaughtered.
Facts.
All right.
I said
That escalated quickly.
It did. As things do here at the Wrist Check Pod. No, but we shout out to Teddy. We did have some fun with him, seeing him in Atlanta with the Oris crew. But so Teddy Baldassar was, I guess he did a review of Zelos, and that was your intro.
I think it was a video where they were going through different micro brands and stuff like that, and that was one of them. And I was like, I think the one he featured was like an Aventurine dial.
Okay.
One which there's a Moser I like that has similar.
Yeah, we spoke about that.
Yeah, so we'll see about that.
Did you ever try to get that Aventurine Zelos? They came out with a newer one, didn't they?
No, all the ones that I ended up going for a different dial, because like when Zelos releases a watch, usually they sell out in like a minute or something like
Really?
that. So
Yeah.
it's
So it's like a cult following.
They give you a time limit when you go on the website to put an order in.
yeah,
Oh,
basically
wow.
they'll tell you when it's going to drop. It's usually like 5 or 6 days ahead of time, and then there's like a countdown. And so when it hits, you hit refresh, and you got to take what you can take. And so I usually pick 2 that I really like, and I try and get the first one in. And sometimes it sells out before I can, buy it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. In 30 seconds or whatever.
It's so interesting to me. It's like it's almost like a sneaker business
Yeah,
model.
Exactly right. Yeah, and so I've been lucky with a few, and some of them were my secondary choice. The other thing, I don't know if I'm gonna ruin it for anyone else that knows, but I found out there's another retailer that sells Zelos watches after the fact.
Okay.
So for example, Zelos gives them a certain allocation of the pieces. So if it sells out on the Zelos website, you can get it from this other retailer in Amsterdam. Online. They sell it like maybe 2 weeks after the release for the same price.
Okay.
And so like that purple one, I knew I wanted the purple.
Yeah.
And that one sold out instantly. So I ended up finding them and bought it from them 2 weeks later.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But they still sell out fast, not as fast as Zelos, but
Yeah.
They probably got their clients who are like, yo, I know you want this.
yeah. So I mean, yeah. But the Aventurine ones always go really quickly. I mean, they look great.
I think it's such a great example of what like some of these micro brands are able to do now, in the sense of like, obviously they can't compete with a Rolex or Patek, but they're figuring out really cool and interesting ways to sort of foster their own demand.
Yeah.
And I think what a unique way to engage clients than to create this system and this culture where, it's like, hey, like, we might not be like these guys or those guys. We're not trying to be, but our product is hot. We have a following. We know our business, and we have drops.
Yeah.
And you better get on it. And if you're not, sure, there's a chance that you could get it later, but it's just like this one obscure retailer somewhere in
Right,
the
exactly.
Netherlands. Like,
Yeah, it's like
I think it's
good luck
kinda
chasing
awesome.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
It ends up turning into a whole nother
Yeah.
thing.
Well,
right?
also because the guys that are buying it, they're not gonna sell it.
No.
It's not. You're not.
No,
gonna
you're
see,
not
I mean,
flipping as
maybe
always.
maybe you'll see it on one on Chrono
Yeah.
or something, but
Yeah.
not really. You
Sure.
know what I mean? Like, so there. I mean, it's just like anything else. People like I like cars and stuff like that too, and Honda is not competing with Ferrari, but Civics are awesome. They're good
Yeah, they
cars.
are,
It's
yeah.
a really great car. I mean, it is.
You used to go to Miami, you see them all souped up and start racing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
VTEC Hondas for the win.
Yeah.
at every price point there. I mean, there's also trash at every price point too. You can
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
can spend $100,000
You
on
can spend
trash.
$100,000 on
You know
facts.
what I mean? Or you can
Big
spend
facts.
you can spend $500 on trash.
Yeah.
So there's another timepiece in here that really, really captures my attention. I've never seen one in person until now. And it's this guy here. This is it's called the Zero.
Zero time.
Zero Time.
Yeah, that's the company. Yeah.
Okay, so, and they're based out of where?
Japan.
They're based out of Japan. I've seen a couple of these popping up on my feed on Instagram, maybe as recently as
This morning.
maybe just a year ago.
Okay.
Probably a little later than that. I'm gonna be honest, they get a lot of hate online.
Okay.
From what I've seen.
Okay.
How did you come across this? What made you get this?
This one was an interesting one. So I saw, I guess it was another YouTube. It was Watchfinder, I want to say.
Oh, Watchfinder, I know. Yeah.
They did a review on their bigger version of this with the tourbillon.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And, they had like a clickbaity kind of link. And so I clicked it and I was like, okay. And so I checked out the website, and the tourbillon one, it basically looks like an RM. But it was like $2,500 or something like that.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know if I want to spend that much money. That's a lot of money and off something that I'm not really sure about. But they had this one that was, I think it was $300. I mean, it was in yen or something. It was like $300. But it's, you know, fully skeletonized. I think the movement is Chinese and then they finish it in Japan or something like that. But I got it because on my brain I was like, maybe an RM is in my future one day. I don't know, honestly.
So that's your trial run.
Yeah, well, sort of. It's kind of like I don't really know I've never really
manifesting the 6702.
I don't know. Yeah, well, if I was gonna buy one, it'd be a 6702.
Yeah.
Definitely.
6701 and 6702.
Yeah, that would be the one.
6702.
Yeah, exactly.
We know someone who's going to get a 6701.
I know a lot of people who already have them, which is interesting.
Yeah, so you know, I've never actually handled one, but I was like, this kind of checks the boxes in terms of shape and style. Obviously, it's not the same in terms of material, etc. But that's kind of why I bought it. But it's a really cool piece. I
feel like there's a lot of things you want to say right now.
You see it in my face?
So
I know him enough to know that he does this shit all the time.
Okay.
So he's like, I don't know. I kind of want to try this. I'm gonna get something to try it out to see what I think about it. He was like, yo, I kind of want this gold bracelet. We were talking about jewelry one day. He's like, yo, I want to get this gold bracelet. So I went on Etsy and I found this other bracelet that looks like it, but it's silver. So I want to see how it feels. I want to wear it around for like a week. And if I like it enough, then I'm gonna get the gold one. I'm like, just get the fucking gold one. Like get your money back if you don't like it.
That's so funny. So when I was saying the reason, and I'm glad that you were honest about it, and you said, he's like, you know, maybe an RM's in my future. That's why I was seeing a lot of hate about this.
Yeah, people
so everyone was just saying
like
it's fake RM.
Yeah.
And the name is interesting, Zero Time. I don't get it.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Educate me.
I'm not sure what's behind the name, honestly.
Okay.
Zero is a strange name for a Japanese watch company.
For a Japanese watch
right.
company, I was just like,
well, it's because their planes were called Zeros.
Exactly, right.
I mean, I'll say this. It's comfortable.
It's comfortable. It is comfortable.
How often do you wear this?
No, I've never seen you wear that.
Not often. I mean, I wear it maybe once a month.
Where are you wearing this to?
The pool?
No,
Backyard?
it's not one. No, waterproof is not good.
No? You grilling with that on?
Not really. No,
I gotta be honest, too.
I'll wear it to, like, if I teach a class or something, you know, like like students really, you know, they respond to that because it's like something they've never really seen. You know, the skeletonization is, you know,
Yes.
I mean, if you're not into watches,
starts a conversation.
yeah, you know, like especially if you're not into watches.
Anytime you can, like, I feel like people like genuinely want to understand how things work, and especially with timepieces. Even like for like friends who I have that aren't necessarily into watches, if they see a skeletonized piece, it sort of like immediately grabs their attention because
definitely.
you want to see the inner workings of the watch. You want to know how it works. You want to get some kind of visualization of it, right? What I will say is, though, too, I'm terrified of wearing watches like this because I'm always afraid someone's going to
call you
actually think
out.
it's an RM and then try to knock me over the head.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's true too. That is true.
I mean, it's comfortable as hell. I'll say that.
It's a lot thinner than 99% of RMs.
Sure. Well, that's the thing I didn't really like about RMs.
I can see. I think there's a conversation to be had here with your approach, right? And many of these brands, you know, what's great is like you can go into, at least today, now, you know, in 2023, you can go to a Patek boutique. You can try on Pateks. Maybe not an Aqua or Nautilus, but there are watches that you can try on. You go to Rolex boutique, you can try on
models,
exhibition models, Daytona, GMTs, etc. And you know that experience is there because these are two brands who work with multi-branded retailers. And one of the trends that we're starting to see right now is you have a lot of brands that are going boutique only. RM is one of them who are boutique only. And if you don't have access to an RM boutique, and maybe if you do, who's to say there's even watches in there?
No, they definitely don't have watches to try on.
How are you going to know whether or not this is something that you even want to pursue?
Sure.
You know, I got into a conversation with a watch company recently who just had a really awesome release and was talking about these new watches that everyone is asking about. But I've seen how people engage with this brand in the past when it takes them a really long time to deliver these new pieces to retailers. And by the time they've actually delivered them, a lot of the clients or the people who were interested in maybe purchasing those pieces are like,
they're over it. Yeah.
I never got to see it in person.
Sure.
I've moved on.
Right.
And so there's something to be said for having access to whether it's exhibition models or brands that are delivering you a similar experience to see if this is even a road you want to try on. So
Absolutely.
I think that makes for a unique conversation.
Yeah.
So
Well, true. I mean, also because, like you said, with a lot of these things, especially the more hype things that people want to buy, it takes a lot of effort to get them, or a lot of patience, a lot of everything. And, if they offer you a Royal Oak or they offer you an art and you take it, probably you're going to like it.
Yeah.
But maybe you don't, what I mean? And it's a tricky thing.
You want to know who I could honestly see buying these? Guys who already own RMs.
I was going to say something to that effect. I would love it if I saw like
a dude who has a 6701, a 6702, or whatever is probably like, I like this watch way too much for something to happen to it.
Right, sure.
So I'm going to get something that's similar that I can beat
Zero
the shit out
Time
of
is
it.
the ultimate RM beater.
Facts.
That's how they should market themselves, as a matter of fact.
The RM beater watch.
The RM beater.
And
Do you
also-
own a Richard Mille? You should own the Zero Time.
Yeah, facts.
And also, I mean, what's the entry point for RM?
100
I mean,
grand.
it's $100,000,
$100 something,
Yeah.
right?
Ridiculous.
I mean, so it's like,
And you don't even get one that you want. You
Right.
get, I don't even know what the reference is. You get
yeah.
that round
I mean, well, like
one.
a 6702, how much is that? Like 180 or something? Or,
Yeah, I think 6701 is like
So
a
it's
buck
like,
40 or buck 20.
your
something
180
like that.
can do
Might
a lot
go-
of other things, and
Yeah.
you take $300 of that, and you can buy that.
Yeah, it's not bad.
No, but it's an excellent point. There are a lot of people. I think the watch industry, the watch world, has moved to a place where it's like the demand on a lot of these timepieces have grown so crazy that oftentimes I think either combination of collectors and just the general the idea of being offered these pieces feels like if it comes your way, you have to take it.
Sure. Yeah.
Like regardless of ever getting the opportunity to like try it on to see
Right.
if you like it, they're like, if it's offered to you, you
Yeah.
can't say no.
Yeah.
You have to take it.
Especially if you ask for it.
So I've been lucky enough to wear 6701 for like a couple hours at a time, and this feels the exact same.
Does it?
Yep,
Wow.
exact same.
So my plan is working.
So now you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Funny enough, because you said if you ask for it, we have a friend who's recently been offered a 6701 and he didn't ask for it.
Interesting.
Did not ask.
Interesting.
Just hanging out with some people who work for or work closely with the company. I won't, share any
Sure.
names. I don't want to reveal.
We'll save that for
any-
off camera.
Yeah, we'll see that.
You got to pay for that.
But he was offered one, and he's going after it. I got to call him though and see if he's ever tried one on. I think I might push Zero Time.
Yeah,
on.
why not? He can borrow mine if he wants.
Respect. You do have some more notables here as well. Let's kill two birds with one stone. You have one of my favorite watches. You have a Cartier Santos Dumont.
Yes. That one, I love this watch.
This is a good piece. I have the same watch. Mine is two-tone. It's a beautiful, beautiful watch, and it's a lot of fun to wear.
Absolutely. This one actually was an achievement watch for me.
Okay.
With my sales and rental business, I started that. I guess it was amongst COVID, I guess, or right before. No, it was a product of COVID, and one of the things I was doing, I was trying to get the rentals going,
Okay.
and basically my idea behind it was to make better instruments more accessible for regular people.
Okay.
And so, because normally, like you go, let's say you're a kid and you want to start playing violin, and you go to like a music and art center or something like that, you want to rent a violin, it's trash what you're renting. You pay a lot of money, and it's
Because it's seen so many hands, or it's just
no, it's
quality
just
in general?
poor quality. It's
Okay.
off an
What is the
assembly
average
line.
price of a rental like that?
Probably around $35
An hour?
a month.
Oh, a month?
Oh yeah, to rent, and that's what, like violin, a bow, and the case.
Wow.
But it's all like garbage
Yeah.
essentially, and it doesn't help the kids' education. It doesn't help them learn. It doesn't kind of push them to do better, because the thing that they're trying, it's hard enough to play already,
Right.
and the thing isn't helping them play. It doesn't
Yeah.
sound good. So the idea behind my business was to get them the same price point, but have stuff that works well.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
So basically they pay the same amount and they get handmade European instrument, a real bow, and a nice case.
Yeah.
And mom and dad don't have to worry about spending, an arm and a leg. They just know this is a good deal.
I never considered that. I think often, especially growing up in New York City, you see musicians everywhere.
Sure.
You go to shows, you see them in the street playing and practicing. I never considered how high the barrier to entry is into picking up and learning the violin.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a big problem for pros. I have some pros that rent stuff from me as well, and it's astronomical. Like especially for string instruments, there's a lot, and I relate it to watches a lot too, where there's a lot of modern makers now that are doing amazing things, and
they're figuring out how to make quality products for
they look great, they sound great, and it's still expensive. Like for example, just to give some reference, like a couple of like a good maker from Italy probably is going to cost you like $20,000.
Oh wow!
To get a violin for like a pro or something or like a really advanced high school or a college player.
So this is a substantial.
It's a lot of money. Yeah, it's a lot of money. But for the older ones, they treat it kind of like fine art, where like if you buy, like let's say you take that exact same violin, same construction, everything, but it was made 100 years ago in Italy by a different maker, it's going to be probably $150,000 to $200,000.
Wow.
Probably, just because it's the same, like if Van Gogh made a painting.
Sure, yeah.
Same thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be good.
That's wild.
But because Van Gogh made it, it's going to be expensive.
There's a premium here, guys.
Yeah, so that's where it's hard for the musician side of it, because there's a whole collector side of it, which is a whole nother thing. But for the like professional side of it, we think in our mind that if it sounds better, that's what implies the cost. But that's not the case. It's only about condition and who made it and all that. And sometimes you get both, and those are great investments in terms of fiscally, but also playing wise.
Go back to that main point, because I feel like just right now in my life that's really resonating with me. And you said they think that if it sounds better, that equates to a higher price.
Right.
And so I guess what you're doing and some of your peers in the industry is showing that that's not the case, that you can deliver quality sound for a more accessible price.
Absolutely.
That concept, I think, is so interesting to me. And I think that there's a lot of parallels here with watches, to your point. Because I think oftentimes with how we view luxury, especially, in the West, we equate, product and price have to be equal.
Sure.
And I'm constantly surprised and amazed when that's flipped upside down and people reveal to me that's not the case. For example, me and my wife, we were in France recently for her birthday, and we went to visit the region of Champagne.
Okay.
And we got, in a matter of just maybe several hours, an amazing education on Champagne. I'd never really liked Champagne prior to, because I could never get past the bubbles.
Okay.
Until there was a really good friend who gifted me a bottle of Paul Roger.
Okay.
And I was like, man, this is delicious. And I only drank it because I felt like I was obligated to. It was a holiday season. Sure. I was at home. I was like, I popped something open. Yeah. Paul Roger.
Yeah, right.
And then I started drinking this. And then I'm like, man, this is delicious. So I immediately started looking at the price. I'm like, how much do you pay for this thing? It's like $40. That was amazing. So I asked the gentleman who gave us a tour, and he flat out told me, he was like, a lot of champagne you guys drink in the States are complete shit.
Yeah.
And he started naming the brands, and it's like all like the top tier brands.
Yeah.
So I just think that's so interesting, because here you are as someone who, runs into this, this mindset or this point of view in your business. And I see so many similarities in your collecting, and you're collecting fine watchmaking, but you're also looking, for similar experiences or, things that resonate with you aesthetically in terms of what's offered on the other side.
Sure.
And proving to people, just as you're collecting, that, the conversation about quality is more varied more diverse,
Absolutely,
and a lot larger than you might think it is.
And you don't have to spend an arm and a leg necessarily.
Yeah.
Now, the other side of that is like, you know, when you go, I got the privilege to go to Patek here in New York.
Okay.
And Patek brought me out and they toured the facilities and all the things. And when you see what goes into that, and then you're like, wow, okay, that's what you're paying for. You know, you see the quality control. You see what the people making the watches, polishing the bracelets, adjusting the move, like what they have to go through, and to just be that one person that does that one thing for that one watch. Yeah, it's like that makes you appreciate their branding because that's what their branding is about. Yeah, you know, like with some of the champagnes, it's branding where it's just like they only care about the branding and the quality isn't behind it necessarily.
Yeah. And that's a good point because I think when you listen to Terry Stern talk about Patek and you see their business model, it's very similar to champagne in that regardless of how big the brand is, everything for him is very small batch because it's primarily quality first. Sure. Right? And it's not about selling the most amount of watches for him. It's about delivering quality watches. Yeah. And in like champagne, you have a lot of companies that are well known here in the States. It's about moving as many bottles as they can. Right. And some of these smaller houses that are doing small batch stuff, family owned and operated, similar to a Patek. Yep. Not so focused on scaling. Obviously, they want to make more money, but they're moving at a pace that's comfortable, that doesn't impose on or doesn't compromise the quality of the product. Sure. And so that's so interesting.
No, and to find companies that do that, and both are fine. You know, it's like, some companies are out there because they want to make money, and that's fine. You know, that's fine. And then some, at Patek, they want to make money. I mean, they're making money.
They're doing fine. Yeah, they're doing okay. They're going to be fine.
But they're making watches. They're in it to make. Then you have, the biggest elephant in the room is Rolex. Yes. Where it's like, say what you want about Rolex. I mean, I have a few and I love the ones I have, and some people hate Rolexes or whatever, but you have to respect their business because it's like, how many do they make? And the quality is good. It's good. I mean, it's not high.
It's not high.
I mean, the movement of that new Daytona shit, but someone's gonna want it.
I don't know. I haven't seen the new Daytona yet. But that's the thing. It's like to have like at least at their quality, at that amount,
that level of consistency,
right? If anything, they're anything, they're consistent.
Sure. I mean, it's like a Moet or a Veuve Clicquot. Yeah, it's like the taste is never going to change, depending on what happens, seasonality in the region of France.
And it's amazing to do that, and they have some kind of higher quality stuff when you get to the gem setting and things like that. Maybe the movements aren't there, but it's a fascinating business that they do. I read an article. I forgot what the website was. It was I can't remember now. But they were basically breaking down how Rolex does. And of course, they had to kind of figure it out because they don't release all those numbers. So they kind of base it off, how many they think they make, et cetera. And just by the numbers, each model of Rolex, like you could take the amount of subs that they sell, is like more than all of Tag Heuer.
Absolutely.
Or just the Daytonas is more than Cartier sells total. It's like nuts. Yeah. Like that's ridiculous.
We've got a love-hate relationship with Rolex. I think it's more love. To your point, some people absolutely detest them. I love Rolex. There's very little I dislike. What I will give them credit for is their consistency, and B, they make a robust product. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I recently purchased a vintage 1601 Datejust. The watch is 50 years old. Still works.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Still pretty.
That's amazing.
Now, granted, the previous owners took really good care of it. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Shout out.
But the fact that you could produce a product at scale and it lasts so many decades, I think is a testament to, the history of the company, what Hans Wulldorf himself set out to accomplish. And it's the reason why they have one of the largest brands in the watch industry.
Yeah, in the world.
Speaking of which, you happen to have a piece that was incredibly hot last year. Yes. Still hot and difficult to get. This is what some people call the Destro. Mm-hmm. Others call the GMT Sprite.
That's right.
This is the Lucky Lefty.
Lefty GMT. This was the GMTs. I love them. The first one I bought was a Pepsi.
Yep.
Love that watch.
On Oyster?
Jubilee.
Nope. Boom.
No one's perfect.
Trying my best. We had this talk. It's like, I get it. I understand the Oyster.
Sure.
I get it. But the Jubilee is different.
It's just
different.
how it belongs.
It's different.
Something about it.
I think definitely this model looks better on the Jubilee.
That I agree with
Definitely.
you. So the Sprite, there's something about the Sprite. It's funny. There's certain
It's because
models.
the crown's on the opposite end, so you think it should be flipped on the bracelet too. That's what
There
it
you
is.
go. Yeah.
I understand.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make sense. So look, him and whoever else is in the bungalow that wants to hate on me firmly believe that the GMT belongs on an Oyster bracelet.
Yeah.
You're wrong, first of all. But second of all, he likes this watch on the Jubilee because it's the opposite of what he believes a GMT should look like.
It's already
this
the opposite.
watch.
I see.
Yeah,
It
this
might make
watch
sense.
is the opposite
It's
of
like
what a
the
GMT
Bizarro-
looks like.
it's the
Right.
Bizarro.
Yeah.
So it
All
needs
right.
its quote unquote Bizarro bracelet.
What I will say though, is that, listen, the Pepsi looks good on Jubilee. I'm not gonna lie. To me, I just have it's like a historical, traditional thing. I want an Oyster, but I do not enjoy a Batman on Jubilee. Mm-hmm. There's something about Batman I feel like it should be on an Oyster. Mm-hmm. Like it just doesn't look good to me on Jubilee.
Yeah, no, I think that's true.
Yeah.
And then the opposite for this one.
This
Absolutely,
one
yeah.
I think looks really, really good on Jubilee. Not
Yeah.
so great on Oyster.
Yeah. No, I tried one on Oyster. I didn't buy it, obviously, but just wasn't what
Just
I wanted.
wasn't hitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wasn't what I wanted.
So how did this? Was this a piece that you were after? Were you offered? How did this?
Yeah,
work out?
absolutely. This also is another achievement one. I had
Okay.
a lot of stuff going on this year. So one of the things I've done since I was a student, I guess in college, was I had a fellowship with the Manhattan String Quartet. Mm-hmm. And string quartet is chamber music. This is like 4 players, obviously by quartet. That is a certain genre of classical music that is amazing. It's my favorite. And so to study with the Manhattan Quartet was a dream come true. Mm-hmm. And so they brought me all over the world to their conferences and this and that and the other thing. And I worked with them for 10 years or something like that.
Wow.
And this past year, they asked me to run one of their programs in Europe. And then they asked me to run one of their programs here in New York as well.
Okay.
And I wanted something to really, it's one of those things when, especially when you work with someone when you're a kid.
Yeah.
I was 18 when I started working with them. Mm-hmm. And for them to, it's sometimes hard to get out of that, them not to see you as a kid
Sure.
anymore. You know what I mean? It's, that kind of thing. So for them to ask for me to run one of their programs was, it meant a lot,
That's
because,
awesome.
it's kind of, I don't know. It meant a lot, and the GMT felt right for that because it was traveling and this and that and the other thing, and I always kind of do things my own way, so the lefty worked too.
There we
for
go.
that,
Okay.
so,
Okay.
So
So
that
there's
has
a
some-
level of symbolism.
Yeah, that has some sentimental value too,
yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, dude. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to everything you purchased, but there is a watch that I think is incredibly important that I do want to talk to you about. And this is a watch you brought with you. This is, excuse me. We talked about this just a little bit off camera, got a little bit of details, but the beauty about watch collecting, one of the things that at least we tell ourselves, which is why, to make us feel good about spending so much
Yeah,
money on
right.
these things, is, hoping that we'll be in a position to hand this down to someone special,
Sure.
loved one, relative, friend, colleague, etc. You have a watch that you brought with you and that you brought back to life that belonged to your father.
That's right. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about this piece. I've never seen this before. I'm not familiar with this brand. Off bat, I'm going to tell you what I love about it is the stretchy bracelet.
Yeah. Classic.
I think that's
It's a
tight.
no-brainer.
What do you know about this watch in terms of A, the brand, and B, its sentimental value to your dad? You've seen your dad wearing it.
Sure.
et cetera.
So the brand is called Novzer, and my dad was Persian, so he grew up in Iran, and he bought this when he graduated high school.
Oh wow!
So my dad was born in 1945, so that would have been in like the mid 60s ish or so, and has his name engraved on the side.
Wow!
poorly engraved, I would say, but engraved nevertheless.
It's his watch.
You think he did it himself?
Yeah, I don't think. No, he didn't do it, but I mean, maybe.
If you're anything like him, probably.
Yeah, right. And it was really special just because he passed last year. And
Sorry to hear.
thank you, I appreciate it. It was tough. It was unexpected, and it's one of those things that we all have to deal with eventually. And so I'm going through his pictures, and he was never a rich guy at all, but he was always very well traveled. So like after Iran, he went like to Turkey, to Europe, all these different things. He like taught English in Tanzania, and like
Oh, wow.
so I'm going through all these pictures that family had sent and that we had at the house, and in like 90% of the pictures he's wearing this watch.
That's awesome.
In like in front of elephants, in front of the Louvre, in front everywhere wearing this watch. And
Do you remember seeing that on him when you were a kid?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He would always wear it. And then, when he got older, he stopped wearing it. The dial kind of eroded a little bit. And so last year I had it, I sent it to like a vintage watch place, and it took a while. It took maybe a year or so.
Oh, wow.
10 months, I guess. And they had to source parts because, they're not that many. So this brand, from what I read online, it was an Iranian brand, and the guy found, or he used like some Swiss movement. So he like would go back and forth between Switzerland and Iran, and kind of created his own brand.
Wow.
And so they, of course, green is hot now, but that's the only dial that they could find.
Yeah, so they put
But,
a green dial in.
so I was like, okay, it's cool. But
What was the original dial color?
it was blue.
Okay.
Blue. But by the time I got it restored, the dial was like totally
Sure,
eroded.
yeah.
It looked like cardboard almost. So that one, they even got the parts on the inside, so it'll keep good time for one day.
Okay.
24 hours, and then after it starts to deviate. But like my APs. No, I'm just kidding.
Ah! Shots fired.
Yo, their movement in their 37 is super low frequency. It kind of sucks.
No.
On complains about it all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really, it's one of those things where it's just
What did it mean to you to get this restored? What was that like when you got the call to get it back?
yeah, it came back, and I was just like, this is incredible, especially after, I always knew it was a special watch for him, and it's kind of indicative of our relationship because he told me, he bought it when he graduated high school, and he said he spent every single dime he had to buy it. And whenever I made any purchases in my life, he was always like, "You're spending too much money."
Just throw the
mom and
watch
dad-
back in his face.
Yeah. So but he always would have a story. Oh, I spent all my money on this, or whatever. So, it was just incredible to get it back, and now I can wear it. I don't wear it that often, honestly, because I don't want to mess it up too much. But his birthday is coming up, so I might wear it then. And
Were you able to share this with any of your family members?
yeah, my mom, was special to her too. And I sent some pictures around, but it's just cool that it's been there that long. Just kind of like you were saying about the Rolex, where it's like,
The engraving's really cool. It's like dots. It's dotted in. It's
Yeah.
not like a straight writing.
yeah. So
I think it's awesome too that like you remember him wearing this. You have memories of him actually wearing this, the story that he shared with you about this, but then also the documentation, like all the photos, images of your dad. It's what a lot of us, I think, as collectors dream of.
sure.
To hope to be able to pass some of these to our family, and they are able to appreciate it as an extension of their relationship with us.
Definitely.
Kind of a full circle moment for a watch collector. This is rad, dude.
Yeah. I mean, it looks great. Honestly, it's like,
The green dial bangs. I thought it was a stone at first.
yeah, case shape, everything looks, it's really cool.
It's probably like a 36, right?
Yeah, ish. Maybe 35, 36.
I also really kind of like how all the indices are like turned in different directions.
Yeah, they are. It's like, I feel like they found all those and they didn't all quite fit, so they
just
like
pop
kinda
them
like,
on there.
yeah, they're just like, all right, we're gonna put them in there. So
I wonder
It's
where they
kind
found
of
the
quirky,
dial.
but it's dope.
that's the thing is like it was out in California. My mom found the place, and yeah, I mean they sourced it all. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is tight, man.
And it's on the OG Spido bracelet.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, this is a good one. Respect to you. That's beautiful.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yo, you have an amazing collection, my man. This is awesome. I know this isn't even everything.
No, yeah.
This is a carefully curated.
This is a Respect podcast special.
Well, like we were talking about, there's really great. I know a lot of people bring their heavy hitter stuff in here, and when you saw me, I was wearing a big time one.
Big boy watch. But this is refreshing. It's awesome to meet someone like yourself, and though I was surprised what you brought me. Getting to spend some time with you, and we got to break bread a few days ago. I'm not surprised. I think that a collection like this speaks to your character, how you present yourself, and what I've had the opportunity to learn tonight. I think there's a lot of similarities that I find really interesting between the work that you do and how you collect, which I think is really cool. So shout out to you. What's on the horizon for you as a collector? What are you looking at?
Oh boy. Well, speaking of the new Daytona, I'd like to get a Daytona. So,
but which one? There's a lot of new Daytonas.
Le Mans, Platinum,
oh man,
and I guess whatever my AD will give me.
Yeah,
I guess. For my collection now, I want to steal one. Sorry, Ben, I know you don't like to steal.
It's okay.
But,
everyone again, opinions.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, and actually we talked about, I was offered a steel Panda, and we had a talk, and we're like, should I just wait for the new one or take and I was like, in my head, I'm like, am I crazy to say no? Because for example, Ben's watch looks great on his wrist.
It's good.
Proportions wise, looks great. So I was like, what if they mess it up? What if it's not?
Might just have to wait and see.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? We'll run the risk.
I think you got steered in the right direction.
Yeah. So when the new one comes, that'll be one. But there's definitely I haven't bought any AP this year. I don't know if there's anything really AP that I'm really looking for, honestly. I'm ever since the Patek event, I've been going crazy with the Pateks this year.
Sure.
So,
what did you think about the Star Wheel?
That was cool.
Yeah.
You know what? These
I feel like
things
if there's
coming
a
back
code
and
to have,
it might be
the
that
Star Wheel is
Yeah.
the code to have. That's a cool one.
Yeah, that's.
I wish it was thinner. That's the only thing about it.
You thinner?
Yeah,
How thick is it? I haven't worn one.
it's big.
Big.
It's a big
Yeah.
watch.
Bigger than my offshore.
Probably just as big.
It's a thick
It's
piece.
probably
It's
just
and
as
it's a
big.
little. It's a 42.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's probably just as big as that.
Okay.
He has the taupe offshore diver that
Yeah.
I tried on the AP house we went to go.
Oh yeah.
He has the same one.
It's a great
Yeah.
watch.
It is a good
Yeah.
one. That watch, yeah,
Yeah.
that watch bangs.
I wasn't sure.
told the woman who worked there, I was like, sign me up for that one. I'll take that one. That's a banger.
I wasn't sure about it just because, it's a 43 technically,
Yeah.
but, AP did it right, honestly. They
You know what
were
I do
smaller.
like? All right, so spoiler alert. You also have the music
Yeah.
Royal Oak in the 37, right?
Yes.
They dropped in black ceramic with the shiny strap. That's kind of nice.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, that's a great watch. It's that one was crazy because that one got allocated to me in 2 weeks. I only had to wait 2 weeks from AP, which was
Well,
nuts.
they knew it was going to the right person. What you do for work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you're
not the music one, the taupe.
Oh,
Yeah, so I walked into a boutique and I had a vintage AP from before, so I wore that. But first purchase, I only had to wait 2 weeks, which
they were like, "Oh my God, someone asked for that."
Yeah.
they called and I was like, really? And I had to do this crazy thing to get there on time. But but
Still waiting for the call.
Facts. We
Still
both
waiting for the call.
but maybe 5811 for Patek, maybe.
It's a good one to get.
Maybe. The first Nautilus just came in, and that was a big time one, I would say. And I always like to tell people I wore the breakfast watch when I picked that up.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the breakfast watch. We'll get some B-roll of the breakfast watch.
We'll show B-roll of it.
So that's always funny. But I like the steel world timer from Patek too. I'm thinking about a couple of application ones. I really like the way they do enamel.
Yeah, they're beautiful. In
so whether it be the world timer or one of those kind of art pieces, those
Rare
ones
handcrafts.
those are
Celestial. We spoke about Celestial too. That's
that
a
one.
bag.
I don't know if I can afford a Celestial right now, but I would love a baguette,
Sure.
baguette Celestial.
6104, baby.
Baguettes. Patek does gem setting right.
They really do. They really do.
Yeah. So
on that note, my man, it was a pleasure having you.
Thanks,
Thank you
man.
for joining us.
I had a lot of
evening.
fun. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I had a lot of fun. You brought some really, really cool watches for us to talk about. You have an amazing story. I will probably talk off camera, but I want to know more about what you do for a living, because I think this is just so fascinating.
Yeah, man.
You gotta tell them the story about that violin at auction.
Which
when
one?
we get off camera, the one.
Oh, yeah.
Was
Yeah, okay.
stupid. It was nuts.
For those of you watching and listening, this is episode 62. You know where to find us, at Risk Check Pod on Instagram, Risk Check Podcast on YouTube, Risk Check Podcast on Spotify, where you can watch and listen to us. Also on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. I know we've been saying this, but I'll say it again because it is coming. We've got a new website relaunching very, very soon. We will share that date soon, just tightening everything up for you guys. And we have a special collaboration that we will be releasing simultaneously when we launch the website. So stay tuned for that. Feel free to reach out to us in the comments, in the DM. The bungalow chat.
Bungalow's popping.
The bungalow is popping. For those of you that don't know, we have a special invitation only group chat on Instagram. If you would like an invite, send a shout out or drop a line to myself, Ben, or Rashawn on Instagram, or just the Risk Check Pod Instagram page. And we'll talk about getting you in there. Until next week, see you then. Deuces.